What is up, everybody, and welcome to Nerd Turtle's first comic book corner session. I'm Derek, aka Groovy DC, and so Geoff John's Doomsday Clock finally came out, and it is so good! With this, I'll be giving a quick recap of the important Rebirth comic issues that directly lead up to this monumental event. Although there have been hints that alludes to Watchmen's very own Dr. Manhattan's presence within the DC universe, and his plans for it sprinkled in a variety of comics, including Justice League Darkseid War, Supergirl, Detective Comics, and Justice League of America, I'll be going over the quintessential Rebirth comic issues that directly delve into the Doomsday Clock event. I'll be going over the DC Rebirth one-shot, the Batman and Flash crossover, the Button arc, and the Action Comics The Oz Effect arc. And yes, Alan Moore's Watchmen and Geoff John's Flashpoint are must-reads for this event, but like I said, I'll be going over the important Rebirth comic issues in this recap. And of course, there'll be spoilers. Also, this recap serves as a nice reminder of the wonderfully convoluted nature of comic canon. Woohoo, comic books! So throw on some human bean juice on your comedian button, and let's start this up! Alright, we're gonna kick things off with Geoff John's Rebirth one-shot. This one-shot had a lot of crazy awesome subplots that give you a taste of what to expect from DC in the near future. So I'll focus on the main storyline that ties these subplots together, which follows the OG Kid Flash and the red-headed Wally West. This one-shot begins with Batman looking into the mystery of there being 3 Jokers running amok in the main DC Earth, something he learns after briefly gaining Metron's powers during Justice League's Darkseid War arc. He is interrupted by Wally West, who had been trapped in his Speed Force for some time. It's revealed that some powerful force erased any trace of memory from the minds of every inhabitant in the main DC Earth. Along with this, he is tethered to the Speed Force, which is still pulling him in, and the only way he could fully escape it is if he gets someone to remember who he is. Before Wally could remind Batman of who he is pulled right back into the Speed Force. As he's pulled back there, he recounts that his memories of pre-Flashpoint, when Barry altered history during Flashpoint, a blue hand reaches out and pulls him into the Speed Force, trapping him there. Wally then reveals that this mysterious figure that trapped him there had been watching over the DC universe for some time, had literally stolen a decade from their history, which made everyone younger and inexperienced, and destroyed legacies and weakened important relationships between key characters, some including the Flash family, Green Arrow, and Black Canary, Legion of Superheroes, and the Justice Society. Wally, in fact, tries to connect with one of the members of the original Justice Society, Johnny Thunder. First introduced in the first issue of 1940's Flash comic, he has the ability to summon a genie from the 5th dimension by pronouncing the word "see you." Before Wally was pulled back into the Speed Force, when visiting him, he begs Johnny to seek out the Justice Society. Other individuals he seeks out include Linda Park, who was originally his wife before Flashpoint, Captain Boomerang, Cyborg, and Nightwing. After multiple failed attempts, Wally becomes weaker and starts coming to the pool of the Speed Force. He makes his last effort to find his tether to Earth in the form of Barry Allen. At first, things seemed dire, as even Barry had trouble remembering who Wally was. Feeling that his end is near, Wally decides to bid an emotional farewell. Before he could be fully engulfed into the Speed Force, Barry then remembers him and is able to grab and pull Wally back onto Earth. He instantly remembers his entire life before the universe rebooted and asks Wally if all of this was his fault. Wally would then reveal that he actually wasn't behind the missing decade, but rather another mysterious figure. Going back to the Batcave, Batman notices that something was spat out of the Speed Force when Wally came in and is now embedded into the wall. He digs out only to discover that it's comedian's very own smiley face button, including the classic trademark human bean juice clock hand, approaching 12 o'clock, Doomsday. The epilogue then focuses on a wristwatch being telepathically reassembled on Mars, the classic line from Alan Moore's very own Watchmen and being spoken. "Nothing ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends." Oh, shit. Now, going into the Batman/Flash button arc. This arc interchanges between Tom King's and Joshua Williamson's The Flash, issue 21 and 22, marking a 4-part arc. This arc directly follows up Flash Rebirth issue 1, where Batman and Barry vow to look into the mystery of the comedian's button, which was spat out of the Speed Force and into the Batcave. This crossover begins with Legion of Heroes Saturn Girl, who was last seen in a Rebirth one-shot, and how she is in Arkham Asylum now. Watching a hockey match, with her being from the future and all, she remembers that a brutal fight breaks out between 2 opposing team members, leading to one's death. This leads her to having a panic attack that's claiming that the Legion of Heroes are doomed to die. All while this happens, Batman is looking into the mystery of the comedian button, while also watching the same hockey match. Why Batman needs 50 different screens to look at one little button is a mystery unto itself, but at least we also learn that he's a hockey fan. As he's playing around with the comedian's button, he accidentally drops it next to Psycho Pirate's mask, which he attains from Hugo Strange from an earlier storyline. There is a reaction between the 2 items which knocks Batman back with a bolt of energy. Batman then sees that this ripped open a hole into the Speed Force, with Flashpoint Thomas Wayne/Batman briefly coming through. Batman contacts Barry about this, which prompts him to head over. Before Barry could get there to the Batcave, the original Eobard Thawne, who had been revealed to be alive in an earlier Flash arc, is back with vengeance. He remembers Thomas Wayne killing him during Flashpoint and wants to take it out on Bruce Wayne in a brutal beatdown that is reminiscent of Comedian's death from Watchmen, right down to the 9-panel page grid. To add insult to injury, Eobard would even rip up Thomas Wayne's Flashpoint letter in front of him. After severely beating Batman, Eobard notices the comedian button. He picks it up only to disappear for a brief while. He then quickly comes back engulfed in a blue flame and claiming he saw God, then dies. Don't worry kids, he comes back in a later Flash storyline only to be killed again, only to once again somehow show up alive during an issue of Deathstroke. Woohoo, comic. While Barry investigates the scene of Eobard's death, Johnny Thunder's story is followed up from Rebirth one-shot. He's at the top of the retirement home begging for a thunderbolt to come to him. The home's orderlies catch him, and as they drag him back inside, he shouts how he is responsible for the loss of the Justice Society. Going back to the main storyline, after somehow recovering from a beatdown from one of the fastest men alive, Batman joins Flash as he heads down the time stream via Cosmic Treadmill to investigate what killed Eobard by following a trail of the same energy signature that was emanating from the comedian's button and Eobard's corpse. As they both head through the time stream, they witness a history they don't recognize, their own before Flashpoint reboot, including Barry's temporary death during Infinity Crisis. A cosmic storm soon catches up with them, knocking them into the Flashpoint timeline and into Thomas Wayne's Batcave. It's revealed that somehow the Flashpoint timeline was not destroyed, kept on life support, as the mysterious forces somehow keeping it intact. Thomas Wayne, along with Wonder Woman and Aquaman and their respective armies, also somehow survived the Atlantean bomb explosion. Somehow, Flashpoint Diana and Curry, who were previously at war with each other, put their differences aside in order to take out Thomas Wayne. As their soldiers arrive at the cave, Bruce and Barry arrive just in time to help him. Together, Bruce and Thomas, father and son, fight them off while Barry quickly repairs the Cosmic Treadmill just in time, as whatever was holding the Flashpoint timeline together let it disintegrate. As this timeline falls apart around them, Thomas Wayne stays behind, accepting his fate. Bruce begs him to come with them and reveals to him that he's a grandfather. As Barry pulls Bruce back onto the Cosmic Treadmill to escape the timeline's impending doom, Thomas begs Bruce to give up his life as Batman and to be the father he never could have been for his son Damian. Bruce and Barry successfully escape into the time stream, and Thomas goes out in an epic way. We rise. As Bruce and Barry pick up their course in the time stream, they somehow run into Eobard before his death. Because time travel logic, the energy emanating from the comedian's button has led Eobard to crazy places, leading him to wanting to confront the source of the power and take it for himself. When Eobard gets to the source and sees it for himself, he is struck with fear and is burned by a blast of blue energy, leading to his temporary death. This blast in turn destroys the Cosmic Treadmill, and Bruce and Barry are helplessly tossed to the time stream. A voice calls out to Barry, asking him to call him by name, Jay. Barry does so, and Jay Garrick, the original speedster, emerges from the time stream, announcing that he's finally free and proceeds to save Barry and Bruce. bringing them back to their present time in the Batcave. Like Wally, Jay says the only way he can be brought back from his entrapped state is if someone remembers him. Before Barry could do so, Jay is pulled back into the Speed Force. As Barry and Bruce deal with the fallout, Bruce finds himself haunted by his father's last request, that he give up being Batman, which leads to his eventual engagement to Catwoman later in Tom King's Batman run. Back at the source of the energy that killed Eobard, Dr. Manhattan's hand is seen picking up the comedian's butt, implying that he is the one who temporarily killed Eobard. Then another classic line from Watchmen is spoken. Everything is preordained. Even my response is, we're all puppets, Laurie. I'm just a puppet who can see the strings. This issue's epilogue ends with the comedian's button floating through space, zooming into the blood-stained clock hand, and zooming out to reveal Superman's emblem, revealing that Superman will be a key player soon. This leads to Action Comics' Oz Effect arc. This arc directly addresses the mystery of who the hooded figure, Mr. Oz, the mysterious man that appeared before Clark Kent during the Rebirth one-shots, really is. Aside from the Rebirth one-shot, we've seen him make appearances in the Superman, Supergirl, and Detective Comics titles. In these appearances, it is revealed that he is running a secret prison which holds Doomsday, Mr. Mxyzptlk, Prophecy, and Tim Drake's Robin. The arc begins with Mr. Oz confronting an imprisoned Metallo and tearing out his kryptonite heart, stating that he will not let him harm Superman again, directly revealing his fixation with the Man of Steel. He then enacts a plan around the world to provide people with choices that could lead to potentially disastrous results. This leads to a civil war in the country of Logamba, a workplace shooting, an oil tanker, and other acts of violence all around the world. As Superman tries to resolve these catastrophes and saving as many lives as possible, he's confronted by Mr. Oz, who teleports him to the Fortress of Solitude and reveals himself as Superman's very own father, Jor-El. Despite not believing him, Fortress of Solitude's security droid verifies that Mr. Oz is in fact Jor-El. Jor-El recounts that when Krypton blew up, time stopped around him, and a blue energy shielded his burnt body, teleporting him to an unnamed lawless country on Earth. Jor-El states that a being that is able to bend reality to its every whim was behind this. In this unnamed country, the family takes him in and treats his injuries that he received from Krypton when it blew up around him, which left chunks of kryptonite embedded into his body. This family had to hide him often from incoming soldiers demanding food for their country's dictator, Qassam. Jor-El decides to repay the family's kindness by stealing food from Qassam and bringing the food back to the family. One of the sons from this family then decides to rat him out by bringing a piece of kryptonite to Qassam. Qassam then sends soldiers to Jor-El and the boy's family. Qassam then initiates the boy into his ranks by forcing him to gun down his family. This angers Jor-El to the point that his heat vision is activated and he disintegrates the soldiers and Qassam. This only leaves the boy and Jor-El as the sole survivors of the scene. Scared, he starts to shoot at Jor-El, who is of course bulletproof like Superman. Jor-El then concludes that humanity is hopeless and is transported away by the mysterious force, Dr. Manhattan. He is transported to a mysterious location where he's strapped to a chair and is forced to view a number of monitors, displaying an almost endless cascade of mankind's heinous atrocity. With Jor-El revealing how he came to be, he reveals that an ominous threat is about to befall Earth and mankind's fate is sealed, and that Superman must leave with him. Superman, of course, refuses to do so. In turn, Jor-El has more countless acts of violence shown to him, trying to reveal how hopeless mankind is. Superman instead sees this as a call for action and goes out to help and save more lives. As this happens, one of Jor-El's followers comes into Daily Planet with a suicide bomb vest. Lois Lane and Superman's son, Jonathan Kent, also happen to be there. Before the suicide bomber could carry out his plan to blow up Daily Planet, Jor-El flies in and pushes him out the window before it explodes, and instantly introduces himself to Lois Lane as Superman's father. He then goes to Jonathan Kent, who instantly recognized his voice, as it was used in the Fortress of Solitude to coach him. Jor-El takes him there and reveals that he is the place where he wants to take him and his family, a place called Bliss. In this place, it's filled with people with extraordinary abilities. Jor-El then goes on that he must bring his family there whether they like it or not, again alluding to an incoming powerful threat out there that is deadly and unbeatable. After doing his best to resolve a civil war in Lagamba, Superman heads to Metropolis, where a deadly plot to unleash gas into the city to kill everyone there is being carried out by Jor-El's followers. When stopping them, Superman learns that they are his followers. After beating them, he flies straight to Jor-El, who is with his family. He confronts Jor-El about this, this, Jor-El reveals that he imprisoned Doomsday and Mr. Mix-Six-Piddleick in order to protect him, and continues to allude to the incoming threat. Superman, having enough of this, and still not believing that Mr. Oz is his father, directly attacks him, but his son blocks his punch before he could, believing that Mr. Oz is his grandfather, and the threat he keeps on referring to is coming. Jor-El then transports both himself and Superman to his secret prison. There they fight. Eventually Jor-El gets the upper hand by using the kryptonite bedded in his skull and fuses it with his heat vision against Superman. Superman then gets him to hesitate when he asks why his own father would use his weakness against him. While shocked by his own actions, Superman grabs Jor-El's staff and breaks it, revealing that he could feel toxic energy emanating from it. It's revealed that Jor-El and some of his followers were controlled by the staff. Jor-El reveals that he is sick from the kryptonite poisoning and how the staff relieved his pain. He begs for forgiveness for the actions he had no control over, telling Superman he knows what he means to people of Earth and the ideals he represents. As the two finally embrace each other, Jor-El is pulled into a mysterious blue portal. He says that he's taking me, possibly alluding to Dr. Manhattan. As Jor-El disappears, Superman asks the mysterious being, Dr. Manhattan, what he wants from him, then is instantly transported to the Fortress of Solitude. He flies back to the Daily Planet to fill his family in on what happened to Jor-El and how he'll do everything he can to find him. He tells how Jor-El in his mind control state wanted to show Superman the world at its worst, then wonders if he himself could have ended up like Jor-El if he went through the same experience as him. He takes a moment to listen to the world around him. After hearing so much dire situations around him, he learns that the people around the world are losing hope and is broken up about it. He then flies off to do what he can to help those in need. So what we learn from these issues is that Dr. Manhattan had been manipulating the main DC Universe's timeline for a while now. One of the reasoning behind this appears that he is trying to weaken the bonds built between DC's heroes and their significant others, which in turn destroys their legacies, for whatever reasons that are yet to be revealed. Geoff Johns has stated that the battle between Superman and Dr. Manhattan will not be a physical one, but rather it's to be a clash of ideals. This can definitely be seen through the Action Comics Oz Effect storyline, which pits Superman's unwavering optimism against his own father, who appears to have acted as a conduit for Manhattan's own relentless cynicism. It should be noted that Geoff Johns officially stated that Doomsday Clock is a direct sequel to Alan Moore's Watchmen, so hopefully Alan Moore isn't placing a curse on Geoff Johns right now. And that's that. Hopefully this should fully prepare you for Doomsday Clock. Hopefully I'll be doing more comic recaps soon. Right now I'm planning on doing one on the first half of Scott Snyder's mega awesome event, Dark Knight's Metal. If interested, please subscribe and I'll hopefully have that up soon. Until then, geek out.